Do you know what's the difference between crime, thriller, and mystery? Today I'm going to tell you the answer to this question. Everybody says that it's important to know your genre. Which is your genre and what are its rules? What are your readers' expectations? But when it comes to fiction, it's a little bit complicated. In fiction, you have many genres and subgenres and sub-subgenres, and sometimes you have subgenres to sub-subgenres. So, today I want to talk about the main categories, the main genres or subgenres of crime fiction and how to recognize which is the genre of your novel. But before we continue, if we are meeting for the first time, my name is Sylvia. I'm a Bulgarian writer currently working on my English debut novel, and I make videos about my writing journey and how to write a novel. Today I'm starting new series here on my channel, and the aim is specifically on writing mysteries. So if you're interested in writing mysteries, and you're not yet subscribed, consider doing it now and be sure to turn on notifications to never miss a new video or live event like this. Also, please comment below where are you watching from. If you're watching the replay, type replay and tell me where are you watching from. And if you're watching live, please write in the chat where are you watching from. Now let's start with the topic. I know that it's a little more theoretical, but these things are important, especially if you're a newbie writer. It's important to know your genre and what's the difference between it and the other genres in the literary world. So I've made a little presentation and I'll show it now. The first topic I want to talk about is connected with mysteries, thrillers, and crime fiction in general, and what's the difference between them. But before I go into the depths of the theory, let's say a few words why it's so important to know these things. There are two main reasons why you need to know something about different genres and more about the genre you're writing in. And these are the genre rules and the reader's expectations. Let's talk more about each of these two reasons. Each genre has certain rules that you have to follow. Let's say, for example, that you're writing a mystery novel. You know that you must have some kind of fantasy creatures or magical elements or even both. And these elements are in every fantasy genre. Take The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter series, even in Game of Thrones, we have some fantasy elements as dragons. In fact, without them, the book and the HBO series would have been merely a historical fiction. It's not so important how often you use these fantasy elements, you must have them. In A Song of Ice and Fire, you can seldom read that something magical has happened, at least in the beginning, while in Harry Potter, well, it's all about magic, and magic is everywhere. So again, it's not important how often you use these elements, you just have to have them in your book. The same goes for every other genre. In the sci-fi, we have a mixture of scientific and fictional elements. In romance, romantic relationship. In historical novels, we have some real historical events happening. If you don't know the genre of your novel, you will not know which elements to include and which not. And why is this so important? Because of your readers and their expectations. Imagine this situation. You want to buy a book in which the main character has to solve different puzzles and to face different dangers on almost every page, and he has to cross the globe to find the answer and to save the Earth. You see a book in the bookstore on the thriller's shelf and buy it. But when you go home and start reading it, well, instead of the fast paced and filled with dangers novel, you're reading about a foreign detective with an egg shaped head who is doing nothing but talking with people. On the opposite side, if you want to relax in your chair and read a nice cozy mystery about an old lady who is solving crimes, but instead you picked a book in which there are dead bodies everywhere and a serial killer who leaves terrifying snowmen and puddles of blood in the snow, I don't think you'll be happy in either case. Neither will your readers. They won't be happy if they don't find what they're looking for. And believe me, they know exactly what they want from your book. What I mean is that you really need to know your genre very well if you want your book to sell. In order to know your genre rules and your readers' expectations, you first need to know what is the genre of your novel. That's why today we talk about the most common crime genres in literature and how to differentiate them. When I first started to read about the different genres in literature, I thought that the main genres are divided into sci-fi, fantasy, romance, mystery, thriller, horror, and so on. In fact, there are so many articles that talk about these literary genres. The truth is that genres are nothing more but categories, types of literary work. The criteria used to divide literary works into genres are not consistent. That's why there are many different types of classification using different criteria. But today I want to talk about something I recently found in a book about writing suspense. In fact, a few months ago, I started searching for books specifically on writing mystery novels and found this one. It's called Mastering Suspense, Structure and Plot: How to Write Gripping Stories That Keep Readers on the Edge of Their Seats by Jane K. Cleland. And I must say that every writer needs to read this book, no matter the genre they are writing in. This book is awesome and it can help you create suspense and tension in your novel. I'll put a link to the Amazon version of the book in the comment in the description section below. So if you're interested, you can go and check it out. This is not an affiliate link. I just like the book very much and wanted to share with you what I've discovered. But let's get back to the topic. In her book, Jane Cleland talks about four major genres: literary fiction, popular fiction, also called genre fiction or commercial fiction, which includes crime fiction, fantasy, romance, horror, science fiction, and speculative fiction, memoir, and literary journalism. In fact, the last two fall under the category of narrative nonfiction, also called literary nonfiction or creative nonfiction, so we are not interested in them. So As far as we talk about fiction, we have these two major genres: literary fiction and popular genre or commercial fiction. Crime fiction is part of popular fiction, and as such, it's a subgenre of popular fiction. But within the subgenre, we have further subgenres. And in crime fiction, these are traditional, paranormal, historical, romantic suspense, police procedural, private eye, hard boiled, soft boiled, women in jeopardy, noir, espionage, and thrillers. But where are mysteries, you may ask? Aren't they part of the crime fiction? In fact, they are under the group of traditional crime fiction, so that means that these subgenres have their own subgenres, and it gets complicated. But I plan to make another video specifically on crime fiction subgenres and mystery subgenres, so today we won't talk about all these. Instead, we will concentrate only on the difference between mysteries and thrillers. And the main point until now is that both mysteries and thrillers are subgenres of crime fiction. But what is crime fiction? I would say that crime fiction is one of the main subgenres of popular fiction. It includes many subgenres, but the main distinctive feature between crime fiction subgenres and all other types of genre fiction is that the plot weaves around some sort of crime. Depending on the crime, the protagonist, and some other elements, we divide crime fiction into different subgenres, including mystery and thriller. And now comes the last important question. What is the difference between mysteries and thrillers? To be honest, I've spent hours researching the topic, trying to understand the different definitions, to synthesize the most important elements, and to introduce you a simple and understandable explanation of what each of these two subgenres are. Unfortunately, this was impossible. It turned out there are many different explanations about the difference between mysteries and thrillers. Some say that it's all about the pacing, so thrillers are originally more fast paced than mysteries. Others put the stress on whether the readers know who the murderer is from the beginning. There is an article by David Corbett in Writer's Digest, and I'll put this link in the description below, where you can read the different genre rules and readers' expectations for each of the genres. But what is the problem with all these criteria? Let's begin with the latter. I think it's rather complicated to explain the difference between mystery and thrillers in this way. It cannot be used for a simple, short, and understandable definition of the genres. If you are using this method, you have to define for every subgenre elements like where is the main focus of the plot, what's the thematic emphasis, what are the structural characteristics, and which are the additional readers' expectations connected with the hero, the villain, the setting, the reviews, etc. The other two ways to differentiate between mysteries and thrillers are also not very good. It's true that thrillers are more fast-paced than mysteries, but there is nothing wrong if you write a mystery which has faster pacing than the traditional cozy mysteries, for example. And while it may be valid for mysteries that you don't know who the killer is until the very end of the book, the opposite can be said about thrillers. There are thrillers where you know who the bad guys from the beginning, but there are also thrillers where the antagonist is hidden until the end of the book. And in fact, that's one of the ways to build suspense and tension. So then, what's the difference between mysteries and thrillers? And here I'll go back to the book I mentioned at the beginning. So I'll use again Jane Cleland's book about writing suspense, structure, and plot. She said it's so simple that it's not possible to be further simplified. So I'll use her words. A traditional mystery, she says, is a whodunit, whereas a thriller is a how can we stop them from doing it? It's so simple. So in mysteries, the main question is always will the protagonist succeed in discovering who the murderer is? While in thrillers, it's will the protagonist succeed in stopping the bad guys from doing what they've planned? These different main questions are the reason for further differences in the two subgenres. For example, if you're writing a mystery, your protagonist's failure will not have a fatal impact, while in thrillers, if your main character fails, the consequences are almost always fatal and global. So, these are the main differences between crime, thriller, and mystery novels. Next time, we will talk about the different subgenres in crime fiction and the main rules and readers' expectations, and specifically, we will concentrate on mysteries. So, again, if you're interested in the topic and you haven't yet subscribed, you can do it now so you don't miss the next video. I plan to do these live streams once a week, but next week I won't be able because I will travel on Thursday and I'll get back maybe on Saturday or Sunday. I'm not very sure. If I have the opportunity, I'll do another live video, but otherwise I'll video I'll film a video and I'll upload it here on the YouTube. So I hope that we will see next time. Wish you have a nice and prolific day. See you next time. Bye.